Welcome to the Rice Field Archive. This time, we step into a darker corner of Vietnamese realist literature, Nam Cao's short story, Poverty. The story reflects the social tragedy of Vietnam's colonial and feudal era. Content warning: this story contains mature themes, including extreme poverty, illness, debt, despair, and death. It is presented as a work of Vietnamese realist literature, not as sensational or instructional content. Viewer discretion is advised, so settle in and let this old story begin. Mama, I'm hungry. This was perhaps the 10th time the little boy had run back to ask for food. Mrs. Mouse was stirring something in a pot in the kitchen. Irritated, she turned around and snapped at him. I told you, there's no rice left. Wait until the sweet soup is done, then you can eat. Seeing his mother angry, the boy no longer dared to ask for food, but his face crumpled, sullen and miserable, as if he were about to cry. Taking pity on him, Mrs. Mouse softened her voice and said, Go out to the garden and see your sister waiting. When the sweet soup is ready, Mama will call you in to eat. Be good, and Mama will love you. But he did not move. How could he move? The small handful of rice he had eaten that morning had long since been swallowed up by the tireless stomach of a poor child. There was nothing left. He dropped down onto the ground, rested his head against the threshold, and yawned. Is it almost ready, Mama? Turning around and still seeing him lying there, his eyes dull as if he were about to faint, Mrs. Mouse clicked her tongue. Fine then. Ready or not, I'll take it down for you to eat. Otherwise, you'll torment me to death, whining one moment, crying the next. She muttered as she put out the fire, lifted the pot down from the stove, and used a mussel shell to scoop the contents into several chipped earthen bowls, placing them right on the floor. The little boy hurriedly dragged himself closer. His shining eyes fixed themselves entirely on the bowls of muddy brown sweet soup, steam rising thickly from them. His mouth gulped down saliva, and his nose seemed to widen as if trying to breathe in the sweet, delicious scent of the smoke. Mrs. Mouse had to hold him back with her hand, afraid he would lunge forward and burn himself. It's still very hot. You can't eat it yet. Go out to the garden and call your sister in to eat too. Otherwise, it would be a sin. She's been working since morning and hasn't had a thing in her stomach. Before she had even called twice, the girl came running back happily, ragged and untidy in her torn scraps of clothing. Mrs. Mouse scolded her affectionately. Oh my, chattering away like a silly little woman. Eat as much as you like until you're sick of it. I only fear you won't be able to swallow it, my child. Then she said to the little boy, Come here, little one. Mama will feed you. The little boy squatted beside his mother, lifted his face and opened his mouth wide like a baby bird waiting for its mother to feed it. As soon as the first spoonful entered his mouth, he swallowed it whole and praised it. So good. But before he could eat another bite, he retched. His nose reddened, and tears streamed from his eyes. What's wrong? He only looked at his mother through sobs and would not answer, nor would he open his mouth to eat again. The girl looked at her mother, then at her little brother, scooped a spoonful of the sweet soup, tasted it, and said, It's too bland, Mama. Mrs. Mouse scolded her. How could there be enough molasses to make it sweet? Having something to fill your stomach is already a blessing. The little boy, perhaps unable to bear his hunger any longer, opened his mouth again. His mother fed him another small spoonful. He closed his eyes, stretched his neck, and tried to swallow it down. But just like before, he retched again and burst into tears. Mrs. Mouse wiped her tears with her sleeve, but she could not stop them from spilling down her hollow, sickly cheeks. The girl rubbed a lump of the food between her fingers and suddenly cried out, Ah, This isn't sweet soup, it's bran. You cooked bran and told us it was sweet soup." But her mother glared at her, pointed toward the outer room, and whispered rather sharply, "Keep your mouth quiet. If your father hears you shouting like that, he'll die. He's lying sick in there, with no medicine, and if he gets upset, he'll die." Then mother and daughter silently ate again, forcing down the thick bowls of bran to ease their hunger. The little boy absolutely refused to eat. He sat there crying softly, asking for rice. Mrs. Mouse had no choice but to coax him. "Stop crying now. When Mama finishes eating, Mama will ask your father for a little rice for you." She carried the child and stepped quietly into the room where her husband lay. The little boy was still sniffling. Mr. Mouse shifted slightly and turned his face toward them. A faint streak of light passed over him, making his gaunt face and already greenish skin appear even more deathly pale. His overgrown hair fell over his ears and neck. His eyes were vacant and dull. His long, sparse teeth showed through his half-open mouth, which he kept parted so he could breathe more easily, giving him the frightening appearance of a starving ghost. Seeing his wife and child, he twisted his mouth, forcing a crooked smile. Breathing faintly, he asked in a weak voice that seemed to come from another world, "What's wrong with him?" Mrs. Mouse hoisted the child up a little. "He's just being fussy, that's all. He won't eat red rice, and now he wants your white rice." "Then give him some. How could I eat it all?" Mrs. Mouse took the bowl of rice and was about to dig out a little for the child, but he said, "Bring it all out for him to eat. I'm not eating anymore. Whatever is left, scrape it all out for the girl and for you too. Don't leave it there to go sour." Mrs. Mouse smiled and said to her husband, "The boy is just being foolish. The three of us already ate our fill of red rice. How could we eat any more?" He knew his wife was lying. He was about to say something, but then stopped, sadly letting out a long sigh. Worried, his wife asked, "How do you feel now? Should I go tell the herbal doctor and get medicine?" "Where is the money to keep buying medicine? I just sold the black dog and 2 bunches of young bananas for 4 hao." Her husband looked at her, thought for a moment, and said, "Don't get medicine anymore. I'm about to get better. If I can eat and regain my strength, the illness will surely pass. Use all 4 hao to buy red rice for me. Don't buy white rice. It's too bland." His wife nodded. "That's fine, but are you really better? You still look very weak to me." "How could I not be weak after being ill for 6 whole months? Just go." "Go now?" "Yes, go down to Mrs. Q's house. It's a little farther, but it's cheaper." His wife nodded and said to the little boy, "Sit here with your father while Mama goes to buy rice, all right?" He refused, looking at his father fearfully. She scolded him. "You unlucky child, afraid of your own father. Poor thing, it must be because he came home without money to buy you cakes, so now you're angry with him. What a pity, my child." But Mr. Mouse said, "Take him with you, or he'll cry. Tell the girl to come in. I have something to say to her." The wretched father stared at the child and sighed. A tear slowly rolled down onto the mat. "What do you want to tell me, father?" "Just now, you and your mother were eating bran, weren't you?" The girl forced a smile and denied it. "We were eating sweet soup." Her father clicked his tongue. "Poor child. Where would sweet soup come from? We don't even have rice, let alone sweet soup. Truly, you have suffered since you were still in your mother's womb." The girl lowered her head and said nothing. Mr. Mouse sighed. "Go get father the stool used for tying the fence and the rope from the kitchen loft, so I can fix the hammock. It's too high like this." The girl brought in the stool and the rope. Mr. Mouse said. "Leave them there for father. Then go back out to the garden and weed." She went out to the garden. He struggled to sit up, climbed down from the bed, and slowly made his way to the door, shutting the room tightly behind him. He took the rope and made a firm noose. Then, using the last of his strength, he climbed onto the stool, his thin legs trembling. Carefully, he tied one end of the rope to the roof beam. When he finished, he was so exhausted that he hung onto the rope, lowered his head, and gasped for breath. His heart filled with bitterness. Tears poured down his hollow cheeks. Then, with sudden resolve, he straightened himself, slipped his head into the noose, and shuddered as the rough rope rubbed against his neck. A sob escaped him. His frail body began to sway like a leaf trembling in the wind. Suddenly, he froze and listened. Someone was calling from outside the gate. Then came the girl's answer as she ran out. A shrill voice asked, "Where is your mother?" The girl answered timidly, "Madam, my mother is away." "Away? Always away? Go tell that mother of yours that if she doesn't pay me by tomorrow, I'll dig up her ancestors' graves. Useless creatures who know only how to eat." Mr. Mouse clenched his teeth. In a burst of anger, his feet kicked the stool away, sending it crashing to the ground. The noose tightened sharply. That skeleton wrapped in skin struggled like a chicken caught in a trap. At last, it only twitched slowly, again and again, beneath the dangling rope. Outside the gate, Mrs. Mouse and her children were crying and begging. But the district chief's wife insisted on seizing the rice they had just bought to deduct it from the 6 hao debt Mrs. Mouse had borrowed 2 months earlier to buy medicine for her husband. And so, this story comes to a close. Nam Cao's poverty. If this story left an impression on you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you would like to hear more Vietnamese literature, folk tales, myths, and forgotten stories, please consider subscribing to the Rice Field Archive. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next story.